we are on the northern boundary of the Republic of Abilene, and a cattle truck has just rolled up the road, obviously going to get a load of animals. So this is one of our gates into the property, and down there, end of the road, into those trees just there, is to the main road, which is pretty quiet a lot of the times, but it is used and it is busy with logging trucks, milk trucks, freight trucks, local residents. And way down the end, you can't see it, but 45 kilometers is the end of the peninsula. So just to give you an idea, we have up the top end here is the main entrance gate, just where the letterbox is, and we get a stunning view in our northern view. And these paddocks are just used for grazing cattle. So when you come onto the top end of the property, you might meet the goats. This is Bonkers, and Flopsy's up there on the wood logs. So he's just come over to see what I'm up to over here, at the same time taking a pee on the ground. So when you come onto the main top entrance, this is pretty much the view you will see. Number of fingers of land nestled in between the native bush. So let's go for a walk. So the property goes all the way down to where the flat land is at the bottom. And since it's been probably about 3 weeks since we had cattle on here, the grass is now starting to grow again. So very close to fishing opportunities. The water's really just over the ridge there to the Wairoa River, and the Kaipara Harbour is further down over those hills. So just to give you an idea of the sort of the slope of the banks here, we're just going down the main bank from the old house, and so a number of spots around here that are a little bit hidden away out of view of the main road. And of course, because the main road is not really, I mean, it's the only road, that's the main thoroughfare road, but it's not a state highway or anything of that nature, and it's a little bit out of the way, so you don't come down to this area of the peninsula unless you've really got a specific purpose. And a car going up the road. So just looking back up, so we've got a stand of pine trees in there, and so the idea here is to raise that area over there in the middle of the picture, level out this, place the dirt over there, and have some type of building in here for use, not so much for living, but for maybe production. And need to just give consideration where we're going to plant or place the growing rooms. This area in here gets a little bit boggy, so it's really not suitable. For example, having a tent on this land right here in front of me. You need to put those over further. So up behind these trees we've got a vehicle track that needs a little bit of attention to make it easily used, because it hasn't had a vehicle down there many years, and so that leads us right up to where the hen house is and up by the house. Because this area here is quite wet and puddles of water and so forth, Not sure if this is really going to be suited for growing. It would really need to have some drainage, because the water just pours down from there and sort of just sits in this area, and it would need some drainage. So whether that means it needs to be building on a platform. So in this area over here, just relative to where the sort of boggy patches in there, is this area here. So one idea is to place a cabin up on that bank, level it out a little bit, and it will give a nice view looking south. So vehicle access along this area straight in the middle of the picture, and that allows us to go all the way, driving down all the way up to the road on the far side where there's a gate. So some of the other areas around here actually allow us to consider putting in some platforms for tent, small cabin, and so forth. Part of the idea is that areas where it might be a little bit difficult for large trucks with big loads on to come in, to then have something that is easily managed by tractor or by hand. But some little spots in here that could work quite nicely. One straight over there in the middle of the picture. And the boundary for western boundary for Abilene Park is just on the other side of this bush here. So a number of spots just in here. So once the bush is there, you can see with the yellow flowers are all cut out, sort of provide space. Depending on the raised platform type, you know, one could be on the underside of this brow and foundations, dig it out a little bit flatter, so a raised deck, and looking into this area. And of course something built in here will never be noticed from the road. So a few of these cow tracks along the property where cows have walked. So down on this area here, we're considering ideal to place some dwellings, cabins, and that type of thing. And yeah, so that'd be quite a nice isolated little area. Looking straight ahead, on the other side of these trees, just on here in front, is some further areas. Because the land is generally sloping with a few isolated areas of flat, it requires a little bit of excavation to be able to provide a flat platform, and meaning that any raised deck for cabins or tents won't be that high off the ground, at least at one end. So just looking back up at the old house, you can see how we're dropping down further and further in height. And so you wouldn't be able to use a normal city vehicle on here. It would need to be a four-wheel drive, quad bike, tractor, that sort of vehicle. The overhead power lines are supplying power to a bore pump that's not on the property, and it's on the adjacent property. So there's little pockets like this in here, sheltered on this side of the sloping bank, where one could put a deck in and platform for cabin or tent site. And so this area right down the bottom here on the northern boundary of the QE2 protected bush is an ideal site. The green grass you can see on the other side of the trees belongs to the neighbouring property and is not part of the Republic of Abilene. The entire Republic is actually bounded by fencing on all sides. And there's quite a bit of wild berry here, which is quite edible. Not good for the cows though, because of the prickles, and not suitable for the udders. It'll just play havoc with the udders, but for male cows, it's not so much of a problem. So in this area here, we're getting quite a lot lower and less visible from the main road. And a car's just going past now. You might have just glimpsed it. And of course, you know, when cars are driving down a hill, they don't go looking all around, they just tend to look straight ahead, so not so visible. You can see the grass is already growing quite a bit here. So at some stage we've got to decide what to do here in terms of grass. Cut it all down. Are we going to use it for buildings, tent sites and so forth? Or just smooth it all out so a tent can go straight on the ground, or a deck. So we've got a number of little nooks and crannies in here. This is one little interesting spot in here. So under this large, very old tree, don't know how old it would be, but many years old. I'm guessing maybe 50, 60 years, but I really don't know. Could be 100 years. But anyway, there's just a nice little area down here where if you ever wanted to just get away with a book, maybe some friends, put a table in here, even a little tent site, becomes quite isolated. You're completely hidden from any view down in here. And I'll just give you a view through here. Oh, I quite like this little area. You see you got a running creek there. Because we've had quite a lot of rain over the last number of days, it's all just draining down here. None of it's dammed, and eventually it'll make its way right through the protected bush area, through the gullies, and way down to a big water race. So yeah, nice little area. I'm sure children would love playing down in here. Water's not dangerously deep or anything of that nature, but little sailboats or playing or making little dams and so forth, like children like to do. So just looking back up to the area I've just been. And now we've just come through the bush and through onto the neighbour's area. And so on that side of the fence is a protected bush, and on the other side of the gate is the neighbours. So this side's all the Republic of Abilene. So this is on our western side of the property, and as you can see here, there's a trail of sorts. Space up here for out of the way, shall we say, tent site, being the easiest way of carrying something in. But because there's the gate here, and it is actually accessible to get up here from the main road. Bit of a journey, meandering around, but it is possible. So one of the tasks I've got to do is cut all this down. And so we've got a nice little ideal site here for certainly putting a cabin of sorts. It could be a dwelling place. Nice and isolated, out of the way, can't be seen from the road, and surrounded by farmland and bush. And just on the east side of this little spot, there's the fence that's been put up. There's a bit of a gully, goes down to where that water creek is. And that's collecting water all the way from up behind the trees on the lower reaches. So we're just going to go back up to the track, and we'll just walk along the track and come back out on that first finger of land that we were on. So through this area here, you'd be able to drive a quad bike, you know, with a trailer carrying up a load. You would actually maybe be able to get a vehicle up here, but it needs a bit of work for a vehicle to come through. But there certainly have to be a four-wheel drive. And nice and cool under the trees here. I'm just looking back towards where we've come from. So when it's been really heavy with rain, I haven't actually come down here to actually see how much water's flowing. It's one of my little jobs to do one day when I want to venture out in heavy rain during daytime. Wouldn't bother at night time. It's not so easy to see unless you've got a headlight and so forth. And but anyway, just to understand the land more. So as you can see, it needs a little bit of work for a vehicle to come down here, not your normal city car. So it's one of the jobs we need to do at some stage when it comes up on the priority list. And the yellow is sandstone. So this is quite hard. This is not just soft clay. And it takes a bit of chipping away to get it right. So you can see no vehicle's been through here for quite some time. This branch has just grown right over the track. And so we're now come out of that trail area we've just been in. So we're now going to head over towards the main road area direction. So we've had a look at this area in here, and now we're going to head over this way. And just to give you an idea, looking back up to the old house. So we're now just moving forward from where we've been previously, just to give you an idea. So down here's further area for placing a living spot, cabin. And up here there's a couple of nice spots too that I've identified that are a little bit raised, so away from the wet ground. And just where this yellow bush is, there's a raised platform which could be quite good for having a dwelling area in this area here. Now a tent may even be able to go straight on here, as it is in a temporary sort of situation once the grass has been levelled out and these berries, things boysenberry plants, are removed out of the way, and you get a bit of a view down the bottom of the valley. And so you can see here a number of raised platforms could be, or flat platforms could be created with decking and a little bit of excavation work. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of crop I can get from these wild berry plants. And you see they scatter way down to the bottom where that toi is, right in the middle of the picture, which is another secluded spot for building a small dwelling. And so for people getting down here, they're going to need a small vehicle like a quad bike. I probably wouldn't bring a vehicle down here. I haven't tested a 4x4 yet. Tractor would come down here, or excavator on tracks. And so if people were camping, they would probably just park their car up at the top of this brow just ahead of me, and then we'd just transport whatever needs to be transported down to their dwelling over there or further down. The other spot is just in here, straight ahead, and anywhere on this side of the trees would be suitable. And then as we go up higher, I'm thinking where those trees are right in the middle provides another raised cabin spot, you know, for something maybe 30 square meters, which then meets the constraints by not needing a building permit, but straight in this area here. And it's a little bit isolated too from the road. Can't be seen from the road because of the bush there. And what I want to just show you here, one idea, if I come back over this way, is a natural amphitheatre. And so one idea I have is on that side of the tree to the front there, put a stage right across there. And so that would come out maybe 10 meters and support it on either side of the banks, and then it becomes an amphitheatre sort of stage. So it's just one idea of what could be produced and built and installed here. So this area that I'm filming down into here now, up from the road, you can't actually see down onto the grass area because of the way the angle of the brow of the hill is there. So on this side of the property, we've almost walked one circle coming back up. So you just use that rubbish pile there as your reference point. And so this is an access road, straight ahead, past the power pole and around and up through, past those trees, and comes out behind the hen house right in the middle of the picture. But looking back this way, we have a trail through here. So been slowly cleaning away the gorse to open it up, but it's quite easy for a vehicle to come and drive through here. In fact, a caravan could actually even drive into here. The issue that needs to be addressed is the angle of entry off the main road and the way and the approach. So because it's on a slope on the road and it slopes quite noticeably onto the property, consideration needs to be given. But you can see from up here on the other side of this water trough how there's a number of spots that will give quite a nice isolated private area. Of course, from up at the top, everything can be monitored and so forth as you get a good view over the entire property. Of course, there's some fingers and pockets that aren't easily seen from up the top. Now, another idea that I have is to install a very large outdoor projection screen, maybe 10 meters, 15 meters, and on this ridge line. And then the viewing area is on the slopes of those banks straight ahead. And something that I don't need to do straight away, but as one of the features for a very large, larger than life size movie screen for outdoor cinema. A stand of native bush in here, and on the other side is a well, a natural spring well. Bush on this side. So the bush like this is not coveted bush protected, but it actually does provide useful little sheltering belts on the property. So just looking down on that pocket there. Now just out of view behind the trees on the right is the water well. And one of the ideas is to resurrect the fencing here to make it secure and actually let that become a sort of a bush native area. Gorse bushes here need to be cut out. You can see some of them, I've already started that job, and then some of the posts need to be reorganised and then protect it all. So just more bush. Some of the branches have been trimmed back to start to open up this area. So a little sunken area here, natural drainage area that drains water straight into the middle of the picture, where you can see the plastic wrapped around a water pump. So some ideas to plant native around the edge of the vehicle trail, just there on the flat area in the middle of the picture. So coming up here is where the old dairy shed used to be, and it's where I'm going to build a warehouse large building. The platform overall maximum would be 30 metres up to the white painted marker points, and 19 metres in this direction. So that's about the largest platform area. Not sure if that's going to be the size of the building, but that's what it would be for storage, workshop area and so forth. And a pile of old scraps of metal from I guess when the cow shed was operating, who knows, and that's going to be removed off the property. And so you can see here we've got so the idea is to, where that gorse is, clear all that out and open that space up, and so that vehicles can either go towards the left or come down through here and through to the right. So vehicles could come down this way, not a problem, that's quite easy. The issue will be if they've got a heavy load, like a caravan towing, can they get back up onto the main road? So that's one aspect to consider. So a Taranaki gate there just lying on its side, normally connect up to here. And so here we have some further areas where we could put a dwelling of sorts. And one idea has been to actually dig out a little bit, put some decks and maybe a tent or something of that nature down on this area there, and another one down on this area. So you can see where we are relative to the old house. And again, the main road is just on the other side of these trees straight ahead of me. So number 3 water trough, and as you can see there's some flat areas here that would be quite suitable for small dwelling, tent site. Parking a vehicle could be parked here. And we've got a nice little hilltop over here that gives a nice view over the property from this side, and on nice sunset evenings, perfect spot to have a drink, table, some chairs and company. So I'm thinking this could be quite a nice site for a cabin rather than a tent. It can get rather windy at times, and as we've seen in the earlier this week, so being a little bit exposed would mean something a little bit more sturdy than a tent, I would think. So you can see down in this area here, which is the remaining fingers of land, is that there are a number of spots. Now there's another brow raised area just in the middle of the picture, another gully on its other side. But through here there's a number of spots to have places. Now over here you can see the road is now quite clear and visible. So, and there's not a lot of bush in this area just straight ahead of me alongside the road. So a little bit more visible. And right in the middle of the picture on the roadside is a raised area, and one of the ideas is to create an entrance there. So you could come down the hill, do a slight right turn through the gate, and then down into this area, drive around to this area, or further down. And of course, one actually could drive from that area past those white flowers there in the middle of the picture, along here. That tree right there would need to be cut out of the way, and you could actually keep driving right the way through past the water trough up to the old dairy shed area. And you would have just heard another car going by. So the bumblebees here are busy pollinating the flowers. So one has to decide, does one cut all of this out for the benefit of cows, or does one sort of manage it and create a wild berry garden here? And it would need to be fenced off, I think, ultimately, but some ways it seems a bit of a shame. But we'll see how much fruit comes off these, and obviously having bees around is always a good thing. So you can see down here, looking straight ahead, there's a lot of area straight ahead. We'll go down there now. So in this area here you can see a gully between two high points on either side, and you can sort of maybe get an idea of how the water might flow through straight ahead there, down through here, through there, and down this gully, and it makes all its way down to the flat area. So here's the main road, and you can see here how it would maybe be suitable for bringing a vehicle in between that big bush in the middle of the picture through this area that I'm standing. And yeah, so that's one idea. So if we just keep going down this way, a little bit exposed, so quite close, you know, just this area here, raised higher point is, you know, just meters from the road. And so another gate entrance down there. The gate's down at the moment because we've allowed the cows just to wander free. Water trough down the end, and a number of flat areas in this lower area. So the idea is to be able to plant more native trees, provide some more shelter. So looking back up to that mountain we're just standing on, you can see how it stands a lot higher than sort of the surrounding area. And basically the southern border of the Republic of Abilene is just on the other side of all those trees. There's quite a large bush area in there that's sloping way down, and that goes way down to ground level, or down to the grass level on the flat paddocks behind the trees you can see here. So quite a bit more land through there, and that's all protected bush, so can't put anything in there. So the land is split between protected bush and non-protected bush. So essentially all the bush up here is all not protected, and basically from about here down the hill, round the bend, is all protected. There's about 7 hectares of protected bush. So the road is just back up there where those pine trees are over the top of the brow. And so we're just making our way down the slopes here. We're going to go through this Taranaki gate. So you can see here it's a little bit boggy. So one of the things you should have when you come here at the moment, especially if you're going to go walking, is gumboots. Or boots that you don't mind getting dirty. Because there are spots where it's wet, especially when it's been raining, of course. You can probably hear the squashing of water under my boots. So this area that we're in at the moment is quite a large paddock. It's all fenced in, and for the protection of the native bush area, it's compulsory that it's all fenced in. And previously it was electrified, and that's always possible to do it again to keep the animals out of there. So again, just swinging back around to the road. So I can imagine that even though this is sloping, if it was maybe a cut made into the slope, maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 meters, maybe at least 1 meter, and form the land a little bit, so for a flat area, or just obviously just put in higher posts at the lower end of the slope to create a platform for building. But right down the bottom here, it's not so sloping, and could be quite easy to just place something just like that area over there. It's relatively flat. So the area we're in now, you can't actually see around this area very easily up from the old house. And just to give you an idea, down into the protected bush here, it goes way down. And we're just seeing the very tops of like those white fluffy leaves on the stems. Yeah, it goes way down deeper. So I haven't been down through there yet, and one of the ideas is to put some trails through there so people could go exploring. But it's a big area, 7 hectares in there. And this area here, which is the lower end of the area paddocks that we can use without cutting any bushes, is this area in here. It's quite flat just in here. Be quite easy to do something in here, and you can see the roads back up over there. A little bit of a gentle slope. Now right up in the middle of the picture is another road on the property, and that goes in through the bushes and way down to the slope, right down to the flat area, and eventually out to the main road. So this water tank needs a bit of a clean out. Normally what happens, the water just arrives and the dirt stays down the bottom. And I understand that this particular one is supposed to be still operating, getting the water from way down the bottom. So as you can see, just some more areas. And so we're going to make our way up the fence line on the right hand side and want to show you into this area. So this area here on the other side of the fence is all protected QE2 bush. So not allowed to chop anything down, allowed to do remedial gardening, if you can call it that. We're not allowed to introduce foreign species of plants or harvest plants out of here. It's all part of the rules of what's been legally established over the part of the Republic of Abilene. So just giving you an idea, looking back up, you can see the house up there down the top left of the corner. Car just gone by, I don't know if you heard it. So very few people have been down into this area. And so there's a roadway that goes all the way down the hill through here and follows the bush on our right. And it's a bit rough further down the slope where it's been gouged out, so it actually needs some work for a vehicle to actually drive through here. And you can't see it from here, but on the far side of those big trees over there, there's a whole clearing. But unfortunately it's in the QE2 area and nothing's allowed to be built in there. So I can't use it for construction of a dwelling or permanent, well, at least a permanent dwelling anyway. And yeah, so just turning around. So as you can see, it's a nice undulating view. The grass paddock green. Top left hand corner of the picture is the adjacent farm. And the main road just up there. So one of the ideas, it would be nice to have more bush growing along this line just to provide some privacy along this fence line from this area looking down into here. The flat land on the top left of the picture is the adjacent farm, as is the hills over in the far distance. Fence line alongside the road's getting a bit of a hard time with plants and trees and so forth growing in and over it, but in some ways it provides a sort of a strong barrier for animals, people trying to come through on the side, and also privacy. So we're just making our way back up towards the house. As you can see, these white flowers. Hopefully we're going to get a nice collection of berries in a few months' time, and would be quite nice with ice cream. A lot of native birds around here. Every day I will hear turkeys gobbling away, and sometimes they come onto the Republic of Abilene property, but most of the time I've noticed they're all on the surrounding paddocks, on sort of like the other sides of the road. That's our boundary, and there could be 20, maybe not 30, but at least 20 turkeys all together, staying together, going over the land, eating the insects and so forth. So there's certain areas like these little dips, valleys between the raised areas, which are quite damp because of the water draining through. Not quite sure if we're able to really use those or just treat them as a natural feature of the land. I don't know what the issues would be ultimately to say dam it and let the water build up, but whether it would still drain away and you've gone to all that expense and trouble. But there's certainly a lot of areas for putting rain collection structure on the hill, like plastic, and collecting it would be one way without building a low profile roof structure. So it'd be interesting to know what sort of trees could grow in this very wet area. Yeah, nice little tent area here, raised. It would need to be flattened out a little bit depending on the size of the tent, but in summer it would be quite nice. Still close to the road, but being temporary and not a permanent installation probably doesn't matter that too much. And now we're almost back up to the old cow shed. So if you want to follow my trail for your morning walk, you'll certainly get a good walk in. Wouldn't suggest running it because it's a little bit undulating area and you could quite easily probably trip. But if you're into cross country, maybe it's not a problem. And we're just below the road level here. The gate is over there. And we were running out an electric line just to stop the cows from getting up into this bush area. So we're just going to make our way back to the old house and have coffee. And this is the top area, roadside area of where I want to put a large building structure. And in this area here, I'm planning on making it the sort of entrance into the large warehouse garage structure there, but quite a bit of flat land here, and so tents could be put up here, or maybe even a caravan that's being parked here, but we just need to bear in mind the ability to get it out there. You could go straight ahead, you wouldn't turn to the left. You would actually probably more easily turn to the right, go down the road, up on that hill, and there's a big turning bay where you could turn around up there. The idea here, away from the building there, over there, is to actually place fence along here, put a gate, and then this whole area here would be fenced off right up to the house. So at the moment it's open and it's a vehicle trail. A little bit overgrown on the right hand side of all these gorse bushes, but once they all trim back, and it's an easy access way. And with the right vehicle one could drive up the hill. So just looking back down south from where we've come, just coming around here, you can see the water pump wrapped up in the plastic. So these gorse bushes all along here, we're going to cut all those down. The idea is to plant trees along here, and I'm thinking maybe fruit trees could be quite a nice feature. So it's a natural drain area. Water just drains into this area in the middle of the picture when it's raining. And we're just going to make our way up the hill here now. Looking back from where we've just been, panning around to the right. And now back up to the top of the hill in this area here where I'm standing is planning to put the main dwelling, a large deck extending out, office admin area, meeting area, and so haven't decided on the nature of the building yet, but a number of ideas for it, and it'll be close to this gate which we need to hinge, and the top gate will allow vehicles to come in, drive around and straight out again. So been digging out the bank so it provides a more of a flat area for people to come through. And over there where the little brown building is, beyond the lemon tree, there's another road that goes all the way down there, so we'll have a quick look at that. So up by the hen house, looking back down on the property, it's the old house. That the idea is that once we've built some of the other buildings, to maybe take it back to just framing and rebuild it as a nice new building. But in the meantime we've just made it livable and secure, and so that's good. So this area here is another access road. Over there on the right hand side, busy digging a composting bin pit area, and you can see where the hens are going. They like browsing all through here. So once we've got the excavator and so forth on site, we can make this easily more accessible to vehicles. At the moment you really couldn't drive down there that well because the area at the top has got some large mounds on it. We've identified an area there down amongst the forest stand of trees for a tree hut, and I'm sure kids and children visiting will like to hang out on that. So we have a lot of firewood in the district and on the property, so that's never a shortage. And so from the gate straight ahead, you'll either be able to turn to my right, down, swing around where the van is, or come along directly towards me through here, this area, and around through there. So all that rubbish will be gone. We'll put a stop bank just on this area here, just to provide a bit of stability and protection. And so you could actually drive from where the van is, come along here, and down through the lower area. So a number of access points. Up here on the probably what is the highest point of the property, we're going to put another building here. This probably consists of a couple of containers with a roof over the top. In the meantime, it's an ideal place for a tent, a few tents in fact, a caravan and what have you. And so we're right up by the main gate now. Looking north is the view one gets. And Whangarei is way over on the distance, which you can't see from here, but it's in about that direction on the coast. If you're going to go to the beach, to the Tasman Ocean, it's over this way, directly ahead, about a 20 minute drive to a very substantially large beach. So, welcome to the Republic of Abilene, and we've got up the top here a barbecue area. We can use the side of the van as a projection screen. Here are our two goats. It's Flopsy and Bonkers, and they've got two very different personalities. The white one is more of a, I wouldn't say aggressive, but he has a stronger will. Flopsy is more gentle, and he's come to stand up because I know what he wants. He wants a rub. So, and he just stands there and allows you to give him a rub. If I had some grain pellets in my pocket, he would eat them out of my hand. Probably, not always. Whereas if I do it for Bonkers, he'll automatically eat them and eat as much as I can give him. Hey, so child-friendly animals and a way for city children to get familiar with goats. Hey, when I first arrived, he was very wary and cagey of me. But like anything, spend time with people or animals, and they get to trust you and understand you. Is that right, Bonkers? Yeah, he's agreeing. So I had a big stack of weeds, grass, all sitting here, but over time he's actually ended up pushing it all down to where I've been digging it out. When I'm digging this bank out, they like to come over, stand, sit next to me just watching.